This video is going to be a little bit different. I am not really going to give advice or anything or recommend you do something, but instead I'm going to talk about one of my very few appreciations about something as a whole, and just bring a little bit of light to it because I think it wouldn't really benefit you as my audience, but I want to talk about it. So that's partially what this channel is for me to get stuff off of my mind, off of my chest, and to allow people to listen to me about what I enjoy or what troubles me or stuff like that. I am a big car guy. I love cars. I'm fascinated with them. I have my list of dream cars that I will achieve one day. Mark my words. I will own a Koenigsegg one day. I promise you. I saw Stradman's video and ooh, one of the most inspiring things I've ever watched. But I've always been super into cars. When I was younger, I would always have my parents used to tell me the story all the time. I'd have one car in one hand and another car in the other hand. And I've always been into like RC cars. There's a piece of hair in my mouth. Ugh. I've always been into Hot Wheels and RC cars and Matchbox stuff and like Lego cars and stuff like that. So cars have always been a part of me. Um, and I wasn't always super into cars, which is a weird thing. Um, in my childhood, I was really into cars, and then there was like this gray area. Late childhood, middle school, like early high school, which is when I really could care less about cars. Like my dream car used to be a Honda Civic because I like how the back look. I liked how the little like the black panels on the never mind. But what I'm trying to say is one day in my junior year of high school, my parents bought me a car. Now, this car wasn't just any ordinary car. It was a Ford Focus ST, a 2016 Ford Focus ST, and they bought it from my uncle. And this is the car that started it all, and I'll never forget this car. It's a tiny little four-cylinder hatchback that had no more than 250 horsepower. It didn't sound good. It looked really cool. I thought it was a gray paint with two black racing stripes down the middle. It was a sleek looking car. It was so fun as well. But it wasn't extraordinarily fast. It didn't sound like anything, but this car meant a lot to me. And I didn't know it at the time, but learning how to drive stick shift, but because of Ford Focus ST always comes in stick shift. I don't know if you can get it automatic, but learning how to drive stick shift or manual transmission got me so into cars because not only did it add a level of respect to my mind when I subconsciously thought about, oh, look at that cool car over there. It forced me to teach myself, it forced me to no longer be ignorant when it came to cars. Now with the Focus, I would full throttle this thing all the time. I would start it up at 6:30 in the morning when it was 20 degrees outside, and I just go. I would not wait for the oil to heat up. I would just like go into boost the second I started the car. I was rough with it, and that car treated me so well, especially in its last moments. I was driving home, not home, sorry. I was driving here last semester one day, and an individual didn't check both ways before they turned onto the freeway. I was going roughly 55 miles an hour, and I had no time to react. And it was a white Chevy Tahoe, and it pulled right in front of me, and I had no time to react. And so I was forced to rear end the car because there was also a truck, and I was in the left lane, and there's a truck in the right lane that was matching my speed, going the speed limit. And I had no time to react. I had no time to move. Um, and my car just wham right into the back of that white Chevy Tahoe. And the Tahoe is this huge tank of an SUV, and my car is I'm taller than the car, like by like my head. I'm taller than that car by a head. My car didn't stand a chance. Airbags were deployed. There was a loud bang, and it smelled like gas. It smelled like coolant. It smelled like smoke. And I knew at that point that the car was totaled. And oh, I'll never forget that day. I stepped out of the car and I screamed because that thing was my baby. It brought me so much joy just to drive it, and it taught me so much about cars and about myself. Um, and it was right there, and I at this point I knew you I knew this car was gone. I looked at it, and part of the radiator was hanging out. Like you can go on my TikTok page and you can see a picture or two pictures of my car, the Focus. It was bad. It was pretty bad. And a couple of months passed. Not a couple months. I think like a month and a half passed. And my parents talked me through it. They're like, "Hey, we got the insurance. It's a lot more than we not a lot more, but a little bit more than we expected." And I ended up getting a Subaru WRX. Now, this is a 2019 Subaru. It's a four-door. It's not a hatchback. It's a sedan, I think, a sedan or a coupe. I don't know. I'm not too familiar with the body types of cars yet. But it was a manual transmission. It's a really good looking thing. You can also find that on my TikTok profile. It's a red Subaru WRX with bronze wheels, and it has roughly, I think, 110 more horsepower. So the thing's pushing 360 to the wheels. It has gorgeous rims. It sounds so nice, and it's been amazing to me. And this is really where my love for cars skyrocketed. When I had the Focus, I was like, "Oh yeah, cars are cool." But then when I got the Subaru, I taught myself so much more. I taught myself more about the engine, more about the exhaust, more about like just everything about the ins and outs of cars. And this is when my list of my dream cars really started to expand. And I've had my fair share of like, oh yeah, I want that car. When I was younger, even before the Focus, I was like, oh, I'd love a Lamborghini, I'd love a Ferrari. But now that I know a lot more about cars, there are quite a few that I want. I think the one that I'm closest to right now is either some sort of American muscle, it's like a Camaro or a Mustang. I'm not gonna go Dodge. I'm not gonna go Challenger or Charger. I'm not that kind of guy. Um, Also, I think the closest apart from American Muscle is German Muscle. I'm a big BMW guy. I love BMW. I love the G82 M4. That's my dream BMW. I love the M5 CS. I love the M2, both the older and the newer versions. I just everything about BMW I'm a huge fan of. But that isn't my ultimate dream car. I have a few that are like 300,000, and then there's one that's $2 million, which is the Koenigsegg that I mentioned earlier in this video. It's the Koenigsegg Agera HH, I believe, the same car that Stradman has, a 2013 Koenigsegg Agera HH. That is my ultimate dream car, and that is a car I will be driving one day. It is a naturally aspirated 5.7 liter V8 engine, I think, with three electric motors. I don't know if I'm getting that right. Um, but before the Koenigsegg, there are a couple of cars that are on my list, my roster. The Aston Martin V12 Vantage, the manual V12 sounds amazing, of course with a modified exhaust, and the Lamborghini SVJ, Cervelo Roadster, of course with the Gentani exhaust, had to have that. There's also the Corvette C806, purest form of American muscle right there. It's the closest thing that American muscle has that would be it basically is a supercar for less than what 200 grand, relatively cheap for something of that caliber. And then of course there's a BMW uh G or sorry, the BMW M4 G82. I got it right the first time. And then there's also, your stuff like the BMW M5 CS. I'm trailing off, but what I'm trying to say is I'm declaring it right here, right now, that I promise you, you will see me driving all of these cars one day, at least once. I will have a ton of these cars in my garage. I promise you. I'm declaring it here and now. I'm going to use this channel, and if this channel doesn't work out, I'm going to use my degree and my knowledge that I have right now that I will achieve this goal. Thank you for watching.